Welcome to the Show Me the Way podcast. I am your host, Andrea Miller, and I'm so excited to bring this show to you. Show Me the Way is a podcast dedicated to exploring the journeys of those who have faced adversity and found themselves on unexpected paths. We will have meaningful, thoughtful conversations about challenges we have faced and how we discovered and forged new direction. Prepare to be inspired and to uncover your own strength as you listen to relatable and motivating stories. Life has a way of twisting and turning, and we often need a fresh perspective to understand how to navigate. Let's show each other the way. Welcome back to the Show Me the Way podcast. I was going to share a different recording today, one that I had worked on with a friend recently, about a week and a half ago. And it was a great message. I'm very excited to share it. But I was inspired by a message this morning. And so I decided to record what I was thinking and go with that for today's podcast drop. The recent one that I recorded is a great episode with a fantastic woman who has an awesome and inspiring story to share. But I will just drop it next week. It is Memorial Day weekend, and I thought, why not give her a full weekend where people are all excited and ready to listen to the podcast, and we'll just save it for that. And so I will share my message today. So, yes, I hope you enjoy listening to me talk about some things that are on my mind, talk about some things that we've been doing with the podcast, and just keep things going, keep showing the way, and hopefully you like what you hear. So, yes, I am here with the Show Me the Way podcast. I'm Andrea Miller, the host of the show, and today you're just going to hear from me. So, hopefully you're good with that. I know I have quite a few episodes where it's just me, but sometimes it is really nice to reflect on how far we've come and where we're at. But also, when I am very inspired and I am feeling like I need to share something with all of you as listeners, I can't help but record myself and just go from there. So that's why I decided to be a guest today and to just share some things that are on my mind. And hopefully you will relate and connect and feel good after today's episode. So yeah, first of all, it is Memorial Day weekend. I know a lot of times that means barbecues with family and friends. For my family, especially the last 12, 13 years, it has meant the Canton Cup, which is a big soccer tournament right by my house. This is actually the first Canton Cup in all those years that I don't have a child playing. So that feels very different. And I will touch on that later in this episode. But yeah, a lot of times it means gathering with friends, hanging out at the lake, making hot dogs. I think a lot of us understand, and obviously we know the reasoning behind Memorial Day, but sometimes we just have to say, wait a minute. Yes, it is a great opportunity to spend time with family and friends. It's nice to have an additional day off for the weekend. But what is it really about? What is this holiday really about? And we all know what it's about, but this is our opportunity to pause. If you're listening to this right now, this is your opportunity to pause and think about the loved ones that perhaps you have lost, or if you haven't lost a direct loved one who was in the armed forces or who was part of fighting for the freedoms that all of us as Americans have today. I don't have anyone directly that I'm thinking of, but I certainly do know that there are many, many people who have given the ultimate sacrifice to allow us to have everything that we have today. We're so grateful to live in this country and to have the freedom to speak and to worship and to gather and to go watch a soccer tournament all weekend and to get in the car and drive to see family and friends. We are so fortunate that we can go to the grocery store and buy whatever we need to come up with the perfect barbecue. We are so grateful and fortunate to have the amazing freedoms that we have. And most of those freedoms, if not all of those freedoms, really did come at the hand of the men and women who put their lives up there for it. They died for us and for America. And that is what we really need to celebrate this weekend. So I know all of you know that and you're thinking that, but this is an opportunity for us all to pause and additionally think about it. And again, I was inspired this morning because I was listening to the church service. I listened to Northridge Church in Plymouth, Michigan. It is a really great service to go in person, but it's also nice to be able to the freedom I have the freedom to listen to it, to look at it online so that if I have something else going on or if I don't get the opportunity to get there, I can still be part of the service. And so I was actually meeting somebody to give away some equipment, and that's going to be part of this message too. So I'll get more into that shortly. And we decided to meet around 11. The person was coming from Detroit. I'm coming from Canton. So we met in the middle, which was great. And I'm listening to the church service on the way home. I was feeling really good about the equipment that I had donated and about the person that I had met. And so I had a big smile on my face. I felt very grateful to God this morning. And so I'm listening to the church service. And after the worship, after the couple of songs that the very, very talented performers sang, after I'm listening to these beautiful messages, these beautiful words of God, the whole congregation paused for a moment. And all of a sudden, they had a person playing the trumpet, playing taps. And again, I don't have a family member, a close family member that I know that died as they're actually serving. I'm very blessed for that. But it always gives me goosebumps, really brings tears to my eyes and really makes an impact when I hear taps being played like that. So it was silent. That's all you could hear. And it really just hit home. Like that's what this weekend is about. Remembering all of these people, all of these men and women who gave their lives. And I thought, I really need to focus more on this memorial for people that we have lost over the years and for just times in general where we have felt grief or things haven't gone the way that we wanted them to go. And that really hit me because what I'm doing with the Show Me the Way podcast is talking about times in life where things don't go the way that we expect. And grief is part of that. And there have been a couple guests on this show that have talked about grief. They did not expect to lose a loved one when they did. And it really altered their whole life and what things look like going forward. And we can also say that for other things. Like when my son was diagnosed with Duchenne muscular dystrophy at age 5, the life that I had planned changed when we got that diagnosis. And I've heard some people, sometimes this is hard for me to say, but I do understand it, talk about grieving that portion. And during today's service, the pastor talked about grieving a version of your life. And so I could really relate to that. I can relate to grieving the path that I thought we were going to be on. So all of this came up in today's church service. The pastor talked a little bit about Memorial Day. And like I said, they played taps and that was very emotional and meaningful. But then when he got into his story, this is the year of the Bible, according to Northridge. They are going through all of the books in the Bible. And today the pastor was talking about Ezekiel. And it's Pastor Pete. He does not live in Michigan. He is a traveling pastor. He comes up for various weekends each month, and he is amazing. He is just so great to listen to. He always drives it home. He always relates the message to a personal experience. He's just very great to listen to. And so he was talking about Ezekiel, and he was talking about hills and valleys and Ezekiel being in the valley and really dealing with a very difficult time. The Israelites had been through so much, and now they were really far from God. They were far from their purpose. They were in a really bad place. Hope was completely lost. And this is when the prophet Ezekiel is supposed to make a change and supposed to make a difference. And so he talked a lot about life not going according to plan. And again, grieving the version of life that these people thought they were going to have, and that life is not always what we think it's going to be. So if you're standing in the valley at this time and you're thinking, there is no way I'm getting back up, this is when you need hope the most. And so Pastor Pete shared a very personal story about going through divorce. And it was very meaningful to me, not that I have been through divorce, but definitely have been through times in my life where the path just looked very different. And we all can relate. This is the main reason I started this podcast. to talk about those valleys, those times where you thought you were going to go right, you ended up having to turn left, and maybe that left was a valley, maybe it was a downhill moment, but you had to go that way, or something in life made that be your direction. For me, it really was when my son was diagnosed. It really was, I will use the word devastating. Actually, that's a word that a friend of mine brought up to talk about something she was going through recently. And devastating is a really, really big word. And when something you go through feels devastating, it's hard to have hope. It's hard to have faith. It's hard to understand when you're going to smile, when things are going to look the way you want them to look again. Maybe they will never look the way you want them to look. Maybe they will always be completely different. But when you are making that left turn and it's down and you feel like you're in the valley and you feel like there is no getting up and there is no place to go, there really truly is. Now, I always say on this podcast that it's not a full faith filled, God talking podcast. I want everyone to feel comfortable. I want everyone to know that they can share their story. This is not just made for a certain group of people. This is for everybody. But I will also say that I strongly believe God is the reason I started the podcast. God made it something where I could express myself. I could tell a story. I could tell other people's stories. I could allow other people to speak. I could use my God gifts, my God given gifts of speaking with people and being gentle with them and making them feel comfortable. I've had guests say that it feels like a therapy session. So I like to think that that is one of my God given gifts, that I can listen to people and draw out a story and make them feel very comfortable sharing and actually feel better after they share. I always prayed, God, show me the way. God, show me the way, especially after my son was diagnosed and I had some doubt and I had some questions and I didn't know what the next steps were. I always said, God, show me the way, show me the way. So it was the perfect title for this podcast. And it gave me a platform to share my story. And then, like I said, allow others to share their stories as well. So I do credit my faith in God for bringing me here and getting me to the point with this podcast that we're already almost through with season 2. And it has been such a blessing the entire time. And it's just a great opportunity to say, yeah, life doesn't always go according to plan, but how can you get out of that valley? How can you find hope and faith when you are in that valley and understand that someday you will smile again? You will laugh again. It may all look different than you planned, but God still has you here and He still has a reason for you to be here. He probably still wants to work through you in various ways. And if you're open to it, you can surprise yourself and you can surprise others, and you can definitely find that smile, find that place where you need to be. And I just thought that was very important for me to hear today. So, Memorial Day makes me think of a couple things. Again, having this memory of people that have died to help us get our freedoms here in America. And even if you don't have somebody, like I said, close to you or within your family that did that, there are still so many people we can think about and so many friends we can think about that are greatly impacted by this. And so it's touching to all of us, especially if we do understand how grateful we should be to be free and be in the United States of America. And so it is touching to hear taps. It is important to really take a pause and have this memorial for those that have died, giving their all so that we could have our freedoms. And I want to go back into the Canton Cup. So again, Canton Cup is a big soccer tournament. Tons of people, tons of cars, tons of games, like just stuff going on all weekend long, starting Friday, going all the way through Sunday. Constant traffic near my house, tents posted throughout the whole park near my house, people everywhere. I take my dog for a walk and I can hear the referee whistles blowing. Like that's how close it is to my house. And it's a very special weekend, especially if you're really into soccer. But also because it's Memorial Day weekend every single year, the people that put the whole Canton Cup together focus on Memorial Day as well. So as you're walking around from game to game, you're hearing parents yell at refs. You're seeing people dealing with the different elements. They're all bundled up because it was cold and rainy the last couple days. You see kids running around. You see soccer balls kicked all over the place. You also see signs in the grass, pictures of people that have lost their lives while serving this country. And you understand that underneath all the fun, underneath all of the games that are going on, there's also a reflection. There's also this period where you can think, wait, let me pause for a minute and remind myself why we have this whole weekend open. Yes, it's fun to enjoy a soccer game or two, but it's also a good opportunity to say, let me read about this person who died. Let me understand how old he was when he passed away. Let me see what she served in before she gave up her life for our freedoms. And it's sprinkled throughout the whole park, which is a beautiful thing. So that's important to remember this weekend. But just speaking of memorial and just having memory, it does make me think again about grief. And it does make me think about how life was, I don't know, 13 years ago when we first went to our first Canton Cup and I saw my little 7-year-old play soccer for the first time in this big tournament. That seems like ages ago. It seems like a lifetime ago. And so sometimes when you get older and you see your now 20-year-old son who actually is still up at Canton Cup because he is working the parking, he's helping guests get in and out and park safely. He's no longer on the field. And you walk up there, you walk around the park and you see all of these parents and you hear them cheering on their kids and you see all these little kids with their cleats and their shin pads and their soccer uniforms and you get a little sad. And you have this memory of what life used to be and you think, how did that end? And you look in the mirror and you think, I don't feel as old as I look. I remember when I was a lot younger and life was a lot different. And it does make you a little sad, especially me. Some people are better at it than others. And I don't want to say I grieve that version of life, but it does make me sad to think about what was and what is now. And I'm not trying to relate that little nostalgic story to losing a loved one or to dealing with grief or to really having something devastating happen to you and then understanding that life is not going to look the same. But it does really make you think about where you were and how far you've come and how far your kids have come. And I also will say that like I mentioned before, I packed up some equipment to deliver to a friend's contact who has a loan closet who happily would take a wheelchair and a scooter and a shower chair that I had. I did some basement cleaning recently and I had all this old equipment, things that my son used to use and no longer needs. And I wanted to see if there's anyone else that could use it. So this morning I was going to meet up with this woman. She was fantastic. We both got out of our trucks and hugged each other immediately, and we've never met before. And when you find somebody like that, at least for me, when I find somebody like that, it just brings me incredible joy. And we took the stuff out of my truck and put it into her truck, and it just was pure joy. I was very happy to be able to do that today. But when my husband was helping me pack the stuff into his truck, he got sad. I mean, I did too, but I think I've already kind of reflected on it. He got sad looking at, we have this little wheelchair. It was a manual chair that was customized to fit our son perfectly, probably when he was 8, 9, 10 years old. And he was so small and he fit into this little wheelchair and even the little seatbelt was buckled and it was so small, only a little body would fit. And he just stared at it. And I said, okay, I get it. It's emotional. Come on, I got to go. Let's pack it in the truck. And as I picked it up and took it out of the truck and gave it to this woman and her husband, I was so sad too. Like that whole time is gone. He's no longer 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. He's 16 going on 17. He's going to be a senior in high school. And I remember the thoughts we had back then. Okay, yes, he has Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Yes, we need this little wheelchair, but Maybe we won't need it forever. Maybe there's going to be some kind of medical miracle that's going to pop up over the next few years and things are going to look different for him and he's not going to follow the same historical pattern. And we had all these thoughts back then. And so then you look at where he's at today and he's full time in a wheelchair and we're giving away this equipment because we have other equipment. And it does again it reminds me of where we were all those years ago, 10 years ago when he was first diagnosed. And we were in the valley and we thought, how's life going to look in the future? What is it going to be like? Is he going to need a wheelchair when he's older, or are we just going to use this for a little bit and then things are going to change? What does life look like in 10 years? And we really had no idea. And now that it's 10, 11 years later and you look back, you think, wow, what was life like then? And look at what life is like now. So, yes, life does not always go according to plan. I do feel like I'm kind of just bouncing all over here, but just this morning, donating that equipment, thinking about Canton Cup, thinking about Memorial Day, thinking about that church service that I just listened to. And it's all just important to speak on. And I just really wanted to talk about my thoughts today, talk about where I'm going, and talk about the Show Me the Way podcast and the meaning behind it and why I think it is so important because it really does touch on all of those things that sometimes you're standing in that valley and you do not see what life is going to look like and it's hard and you get overwhelmed and you start to maybe have a bit of a panic attack. You start to think, how will life go? Can I get through it? Is there hope to be had? Am I going to find love and happiness and laugh again? Or am I going to sit in this valley and sit in this place of devastation and just be upset that life's not going to go according to plan? Or am I going to focus on those that I've lost and just not look past it and not be able to breathe again and move forward in a future because it's so uncertain and I just don't know how I will get through it. So I think the message here is you're not alone. That's the number one. You are not alone. We've all been there. We've all been through moments of either grief or an understanding that we've been through this, we've been in this valley, and life does not look like we expected it to look, and we don't really know how to go forward. So understanding that you're not alone is step one. Step two, you have your own journey. God is showing you your way. I strongly believe that God has a path outlined for every single one of us. He knows. He's been there. He understands where we're headed, even if we can't see that. So sometimes having faith and understanding that life is not always going to go as planned. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be exactly what we think, but we can still get through it, especially if we've got faith. It's a great place to start. And we can keep moving forward. It might look different. We might feel different. We might not be the same person that we were before, but it doesn't mean that we can't find our God-given talents and find a way to move forward in a positive way. And so I really appreciate being able to have this Show Me the Way podcast where we all can show each other the way and we all can show each other what we've done and what our perspective looked like after. So I think that's very important. And we've done that for a full season 1 and almost a full season 2. And it's pretty amazing that people are continuing to tell their story and they're continuing to understand that, yes, my life looks different, but I want to share it with others and I want people to understand my perspective. So again, you're not alone. You're on your own path. If you believe in God, your faith and your belief in God can help you with that path. You can understand where you're supposed to be over time and you can keep moving in that direction, whatever feels right for you. And I think the other thing is that life is not easy. There is a lot of pain. There's grief. There are times where we lose people that we didn't expect to lose in the time that we lost them. We might be unhappy in something else going on with our life, maybe with our marriage, maybe with our job, maybe with where we're living or what we've got going on with our family. But it doesn't mean that you're always going to be in that place. And you can have memories of how things were, and you can feel sad if you need to, and you can focus on those memories and really think about them and have your moment with it. but you can also think about moving forward and taking those memories and turning them into a positive and understanding that there is a path for you and that you're going to find it. And hopefully that keeps you with your head held high and that enables you to get through this difficult time. I don't know that I should admit this, but when I hear hills and valleys, there's actually an episode where the title is Hills and Valleys of my podcast where I'm speaking. And there's a song that I really like that a friend of mine shared with me, Hills and Valleys. Often when I hear that, I think the hill is a difficult time because you're climbing up. But the valley is that moment where or that time period where you're just down and you just don't see hope. You don't see a future. You don't understand how you're going to get up that hill. So over the last couple of weeks, I've heard it mentioned by a couple of people. Yeah, the valley is a time that it's difficult, but you have to keep walking, you have to keep moving, you have to keep climbing up to get to that hill. And it gave me different perspective on that hills and valleys thought that the valley is where it's difficult. The valley is a difficult time. It's hard to imagine going up the hill when you're all the way at the bottom and you're just not seeing the steps. You're not seeing the ladder or the rope that got thrown down to you. You're thinking to yourself, I'm alone. I don't see how I will ever get to the top of that hill. I'm stuck in this dark, difficult place, the valley. And it really made me think, you're right. Sometimes when you're sitting there, you just don't see how you're ever going to get out of it. You just don't see how you're ever going to get up. But I know from experience, and maybe a completely different experience than you have, that baby steps, one step at a time, you can continue moving in that direction. You can get closer to the top of the hill. You can take one foot and put it in front of the other, no matter how long it takes. And you're not alone. And there are people that have been through it before that have paved the way that will help you. But there's also people near you that will help you, even if they have no idea what you're going through. They just know that they want to be there for you. So find those people. If it's one person, great. If it's 10 people, awesome. Find those people, cling to them, let it out to them, pray with them, hold their hands, and understand that you are here for a reason. You are here for a purpose. And even if climbing up those steps and getting to the top of the hill looks completely different than the hill you were on before, or on the hill, or than the hill you expected to be on, you can still get through it. So I'm not sure if this is a motivational podcast episode for you or if it's just one that you can relate to. Again, I just really felt compelled to pop in here and just speak to you from what's on my heart, what's on my mind, to remind you all that yes, this weekend is a great time to spend with family and friends, that it's a great time to enjoy that extra long weekend. It's a great time to head up to Canton Cup and watch a soccer tournament. It's a great time to have a barbecue, to spend time at the lake, to do all the fun things that you do to kick off summer. But it's also a really good time to remember those that have died to give us all the freedoms that we have in the US. And if it's somebody that you knew personally, somebody that your friend or family knew personally, or just in general, if you want to think about all of those that gave the ultimate sacrifice for all of us for the freedoms that we have today, it is a great reminder to think about those things. But also other things you're remembering, like my child being in that little wheelchair 10 years ago and how fast and how different life is now than it was then. It's okay to have these memories. It's okay to think, gosh, life was going to look like this. And I thought we were going in this direction. And now it's really different. It's okay to have those memories. It's okay to look back and think and pause for a minute to remember all of that stuff. But it's also a great opportunity to say, look how far we've come. Look at where we are. All of those people that died in the armed forces, that died serving their country. What a weekend to remember what they did for all of us. But it's also a celebration of look how far we've come because of the things that all of those men and women did for all of us. And it's the same thing with life in general. 10 years ago, life looks so different. And yes, we had a little bit of hope that maybe he wouldn't need another wheelchair. But we also knew that life could look like this historical pattern of other boys with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And it was a difficult, very difficult time back then. You wanted to have hope, but you also had a lot of dread. You also were scared for the future. And now, look how far we've come. Look how far my son has come. Yes, he is full time in a wheelchair, but he's impacting people on a daily basis. He is up at the Canton Cup soccer tournament, watching his friends and cheering them on. Even if we thought he would be playing one day, him cheering on his friends really makes an impact, and that's special to us. And he has taught my husband, me, everybody that he meets so much. He's given us so much perspective. I've talked about it all the time throughout this podcast. He's the reason I started this podcast. And he's just shown us that although we thought our path was going to look like something, and although we might be or did grieve the version of our life that we thought of our lives that we thought we were going to have, we still learned quite a bit from him and continue to learn every single day that even if you are in the valley, even if you do have a different plan than what you expected, there's still so much joy to be had and so much positivity and so much hope and so much that we can learn from it. And I love living in the today, not tomorrow, living in the present, understanding that nothing is promised tomorrow, the future. None of that is promised, and that we have to really live each day to the best of our ability. We need to find the positivity. We need to climb out of that valley in a positive way as best we can. Like I said, one day at a time, one foot in front of the other, and just understand that if we're here on this earth, it's for a reason and there's a path for us. So my message, I don't know, like I said, if it's motivating or not. I hope that it got through to all of you. I hope you can relate to some of the things I'm saying and just understand that I'm here to help us show each other the way. If you are listening and you feel like I could really share my story because I can relate to this, I would love to connect with you. I would love to share your story. I really appreciate you listening and supporting. I really appreciate all the guests I've had on so far and all of the listeners. And thanks for letting me kind of share my thought this morning and today and for this weekend. I wish all of you a blessed Memorial Day weekend. I hope it's safe. I hope you have a great time with your family and friends. I hope you do all reflect on the reason behind the holiday, especially if you have a personal relation to somebody that has given up their life, given the ultimate sacrifice for all of our freedom so that we can celebrate. And I do pray that not only do you reflect and have memory, but that you also can celebrate that person, celebrate those people that gave their life so that we can have all of the beautiful things that we do have in this country and that we have each other. I pray that you're able to find joy and happiness and a few laughs this weekend, and if not this weekend, sooner than later. If your path is really in a dark place right now, if you are kind of in a valley and you really want to get out of it, just know that you can. It just takes time, and everybody has their own journey. And I pray that you find the people that can help you get out of it and find your positivity and find your hopefulness, because my husband and I, we were in a very dark place 10, 11 years ago, and we really have come a long way since then. And it's just such a beautiful life that we've all been given. And if we're here, we're blessed with it, and we're still able to give of our talents and our strengths, and we're still able to give back to people. And if that means donating an old wheelchair that we had no idea how long we would need, or what the next wheelchair would look like, or what the future would look like when we purchased that, or when we were able to obtain that. Now that we've been able to donate it, okay, there's a reason. We are here to give back, and people have given to us, so we need to make sure we give back. And we continue to climb out of the valley and up the hill every single day. Sometimes it's a few steps back, and then sometimes it's a few steps forward, but we're doing it together. We're doing it with people around us who love us and who are there for us. And that's a beautiful thing. Here's to a great weekend to all of you. May the sun come out in Michigan at some point. And may all of you take the moment to reflect, but also understand where you're at today. And if you related on something that I said, great. if this one wasn't the best for you, I get that too. There are so many other stories that I would love for you to go back and listen to. And again, if you have a story to tell, I would love for you to show us the way also. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for listening. Here's to one day at a time, one foot in front of the other. Today, not tomorrow. Life doesn't always go according to plan, but there's perspective and there's light and there's hope on the other side. If you've had to make a right instead of a left, there's a story, there's perspective, there's hope, and it's something that we all can relate to, even if we haven't been through exactly the same thing. Thank you for joining me for the Show Me the Way podcast. I truly appreciate you tuning in to today's episode about overcoming adversity and finding your path. I hope it brought you new insights, empowered you with perspective, and inspired you to find joy in your journey. If this episode touched your heart, don't forget to leave a quick review, as it will help us reach and motivate more people. Until next time, keep seeking the light and showing the way.